Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. So it's been a long time since I tried to do a Jon Snow hairdo. It only works for me sometimes. And look, I'm wearing real pants today. Do you see this? These are not pajama pants that I'm hiding. These are real pants. You guys did not come here to see my discount Gap Outlet pants that I bought 2 years ago. Today we're gonna talk about something that I haven't talked about in a while because it hasn't been as relevant, but to me it will always be relevant, and that is dun 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 dun. Here's what happened with me in Game of Thrones. We met, we fell passionately in love, we were inseparable, constantly thinking of each other, constantly being together. Then the tragedy, the horror of May 2019 happened. A very nasty breakup. I got the books for Christmas because literally the #1 thing I requested for Christmas was the Game of Thrones book. And then I actually have my Christmas video. I showed this on Christmas Eve. My mom gave me not one, but 2 of the Game of Thrones books. And I was like a 5-year-old getting a kitten on Christmas Eve. I was so excited. The first Game of Thrones book, as you can tell, it looks a little loved on because I would read it while sitting outside in the sun and while in the bathtub. I love reading in the tub. I just make sure not to get the book wet, but you know, like the steams from the hot bath still kind of mess with it a little bit. But I love the look of a loved on book to me. I think it looks better than a pristine book because you know someone has really been enjoying it. And then I started the second book and I've only gotten this far, so I have a lot left to enjoy. I'm currently on a chapter about Theon. And today I just wanted to have a little discussion about the differences I've noticed between the Game of Thrones books and the television show. So a lot of people have only seen the show, and then a lot of people read the books first because the book came out when I was a baby. Like, it came out in '96. I hadn't heard of it until everyone was watching the TV show. Today, I'm just gonna start by talking about book 1, and then maybe I can make more videos as I progress into reading the book series. But I'm just gonna mention a few things that come to my mind when I was reading it that I thought, hey, this is different. So the first thing I noticed is how everyone is so much younger. I'm gonna take down my little hairdo. Wow, this is now a look. We're gonna go with a wildling chic look for the rest of this video. Jon and Rob are only 14, and in the show they're clearly depicted as coming of age men, at least 17, but likely 18. It makes it so much harder to read knowing that they were actual children, especially when it talks about Daenerys and Khal Drogo. Definitely, if you didn't know, in the books they are much younger, by at least 3 to 5 years younger in the books than they are in the show, because I guess for the time, although we don't really have a year, Game of Thrones doesn't take place in the world as we know it. They have different continents, different everything. It's in kind of like Middle Earth, like the Shire and all that. That's not a real place in history or in time. It's its own world. It's like that. I guess for whatever time this was, people would have been super young when they got married and stuff, but it was just still, reading it as a regular person today is very disturbing in my opinion. That being said, Daenerys and Khal Drogo have not perfect. There are still some very questionable moments that are huge red flags, and like, no, that should not have happened in her story with Khal. But overall, it is much more chill and loving, especially the wedding day depiction. And when he gives her the horse and everything, he is so much more kind and gentle and patient, which this doesn't make sense to me. On that day in the book, he's depicted as being more kind, patient, not making her act a certain way, like just being a way overall just gentler person. And the whole thing was she was surprised at how he was being so patient and kind and all that jazz. And in the movie, it is this very disturbing situation. It's nothing like that. She's like a hostage pretty much. And I don't understand that. Like, they should have depicted the more romantic one and had her be aged up so that you could just enjoy a romantic scene. But for some reason, I guess they wanted her to overcome more trials in the show than in the book scene. So I'm curious to know what you think. Do you think Khal was just overall bad because of the things he did bad? There's just some creepy stuff going on that makes it all extremely confusing. Another thing is that the characters in the book look a lot different than in this show. So it's depicted in the book that Tyrion was this hideous, disturbing, otherworldly man who was extremely deformed. His eyes were different colors, whereas Peter Dinklage is a handsome dude, you know? He is a handsome dude. And so those were very different. It reminded me of Hermione Granger, how in the books she was not very attractive. That was kind of one of her biggest insecurities, is she used her brains and her wit to overcome the fact that she had really buck teeth and really frizzy hair. I understand that one. You know, even after she grew up, she still wasn't like as beautiful as Emma Watson is. And with Daenerys, she was supposed to have lavender eyes. The Targaryens had a lavender or purple kind of violet eye color with silver platinum hair. They gave her the hair, but the actress Emilia Clarke, I believe she has green eyes, but they didn't put purple contacts on her. I guess they didn't want it to seem too mythical, which with dragons, I'm not sure what they were worried about, but the Targaryens were supposed to have purple eyes. All of the Tullys were supposed to be redheads, and I guess they were a little bit redheaded like Catelyn was. Most of the other kids just were like regular looking Starks. Of course, you know, Arya and Bran and Jon all looked a lot alike, and then Rickon and Robb and Sansa all looked a lot alike. And Sansa was a redhead in the show. The next thing I want to describe that's different in the books is that I already, from watching the show, I despise, like I cannot stomach Catelyn Stark. I just think she's the worst. She's horrible. She's just terrible. She's selfish. She's so cruel to Jon because he exists and he has never done one bad thing to her. And in the show, I mean in the book, she is so much worse than in the show. In the show, when Bran is a very different person than Bran. When Bran is knocked out in his coma after he fell off the tower because Jaime did a little pushy, Jon comes to say goodbye before going to the wall because Bran wasn't awake yet. And all Catelyn says in the show, I actually just watched the scene the other night, she says something about, just go away, I don't want you here. She says like one or two sentences. In the book, she goes on this long tangent about how she hates him, I'm paraphrasing, but she hates him and that he's just this nuisance on her life and that he has no right to act like Bran is his brother because he's just a, you know, what they call him all the time. And Jon's just like, and then Ned walks in the room and doesn't even say to his wife, why are you being such a horrible human being? He just like doesn't say anything, and it blows my mind. Next thing I want to talk about is as far as how different the book is from the show. I think this is any book to show adaptation, but the book makes so much more sense. The show, you have to guess what they're thinking. You don't know what's going on behind Ned's head unless he says it. There's no narrator. It's not Gossip Girl. You just see Ned make these choices and it's up to you to decide why he made this really dumb choice. And in the show, in the book, you can hear his inner dialogue of why he's doing what he's doing. And so many things that I watched on the show that just didn't quite make sense to me. Like they were so clear, and who characters were. Like some random person might walk up to Ned and say something, and then I'll see them again in another scene and I don't really know who that is. And now I know, like, oh, that was Jory Castle. Like I would know all the characters so much better now. And so I'm gonna rewatch each season with each book and just kind of really understand what's happening in a totally different way. I'm sorry, but what happens to Ned is just almost entirely his own fault. I mean, of course, Joffrey had explicit instructions to pardon Ned, so the ultimate fault, of course, lies on Joffrey being an actual demon sent from Demon Land. Even Cersei herself knew better than to act like that. She was gonna send him, it was her idea, I think, to send him to the wall. But even leading up to that point, he still got himself into so much of that situation because of his honor and his, I think it was honestly a lot of pride. First of all, he should have turned down being the Hand of the King. I know that was also a lot of Catelyn's fault, but he should have turned down the position and he shouldn't have meddled the way he did. He should have been much more careful about making it obvious. Like he never should have written that letter to Stannis. I personally think he should have sided with Renly. when Renly came up right after Robert died. Also, okay, I'm gonna go way back. I think Ned could have prevented Robert's death because if I'm not remembering incorrectly, he already knew that Cersei's children were Jaime's and not Robert's before he went on that hunting trip. Ned should have known something was up. He knew something was up anyway. He knew something was wrong, and you know, he could have gone with them or at least warned Renly, because you know, Renly is a really cool character. One of my favorites actually, and really could have done something there. And it doesn't matter about this stupid thing where he said, well, Stannis rightly deserves the throne, so I'm gonna help him get it. Robert literally stole the throne from, Aerys Targaryen. It doesn't matter if he was a mad king. According to Ned's logic of honor, he was the rightful king, therefore you have to pledge allegiance to him. He threw that out the window for Robert to become king, which makes no sense if he's so obsessed with this honor thing. But then he goes back to being obsessed with it to put Stannis, when Stannis is a lobster. He's like literally an emotionless, weird person. He should have helped Renly take over the castle, kidnap the children, and kind of hold them for ransom, not hurt them in any way. But you know, Renly wanted to say, we'll take the 3 Lannister children, we'll tell Cersei that we know her secret and she has to get out right now, and then there won't be any problems, and then Renly could have taken over the throne and better Baratheon could have been in charge. Ned would live happily ever after. But Ned was like, there's no honor in stealing a sleeping child from their bed and frightening them. True, but Renly was never going to hurt them. He wasn't even going to take them out of their own castle. He was just going to bring them into a room, I guess, and tell Cersei, like, you can't get them back until you agree to leave, and then leave right now. Like, it wasn't going to hurt anybody, and then it would have saved all their lives, because all 3 of those children would have lived long, adult, happy lives if that had happened. If that had happened, Joffrey wouldn't have become king. Maybe he wouldn't have become so evil because he wouldn't have gotten that power. I mean, he was already evil, but maybe he would have been humbled and not become evil and grown up to be an actual decent human being, possibly. Tommen, who was always a really good kid, would have grown up to be a good man, and Marcella wouldn't have been poisoned. So I'm just saying that one little scare for them would have saved their whole lives. But the whole point of his character, in my opinion, is that honor becomes so muddled with pride that if you follow the rules with no bend, follow the straight rules, in the end, it is going to be more immoral than bending the rules sometimes. Worse things can happen from following rules that have to be broken because life is too situational. And you have to think about the consequences of what you're doing and not just say, because it's the right thing, it has to be done. It drives me crazy how because of Ned's honor, he caused his own death and so many others that happened maybe even years later still wouldn't have happened if Ned had just helped Renly or not let Cersei know in that garden that he knew. That's all I have to say so far about the differences in the first book and the show. You know, there's a lot more, but that would take like a 3-hour-long video, if not longer. So I will go ahead and leave it at that. I would like to do an updated video in a few weeks when I finish the second book and as I carry on finishing the books and watching the show, and I'll start taking notes to make these videos. I had a lot of fun filming it. I love Game of Thrones, and now that I've had some distance from what happened last year, I still will not recognize anything past the Battle of Winterfell dead to me. Just doesn't exist to me. It's not worth throwing out the whole Game of Thrones with the bathwater because there are 7 amazing seasons. It's just the last 3 episodes were like, why don't we make this pie with salt instead of sugar? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I have a lot of fun making it, and if there's anything you'd like me to do a discussion video about, just leave it in the comments below, and if it's something I haven't seen, maybe I can watch it and check it out for you. Remain unbowed, unbent, unbroken, House Martell. Growing strong, House Tyrell. As high as honor, House Aaron. Hear me roar, which is the stupidest one to me, House Lannister. And winter is coming, House Stark. I can't believe that, like, you'd think their thing would be something about honor. Ours is the Fury, House Baratheon. And of course, House Targaryen, Fire and Blood. Bye, guys.